Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. The Saab is back, and can you guess what's next? Rust. So with the Saab up in the air, all wheels off, I can continue the rust repairs. At first glance, this side really looks nice. I am going to clean it up and check, but it looks really nice. But the other side reveals a bit of rust, and this is the side that I fixed on the inside in the previous video. That's the hole up there that I wanted to fix on the outside. There is also a hole up there, and then there is the repair that I did from the inside that needs to be cleaned up, and then there's this down here. But I really need to make sure that this entire structure is solid and good enough. There is some areas that looks a little bit exciting to dig into. But what I'm going to do is to just start to scrape off the rust in the areas where it looks rusty, so I can see the scope of it. I need to just do some dressing up to the repair I did right here. Then I need to figure out what to do about this. This is a previous repair. I think it's just a patch on top of rust. Not sure though, but I might cut that up and check it and redo it. I'm just going to clean up all the other areas also while I'm in here. Yeah, I think this area just needs some cleaning up, and the rust repair up here, of course. Oh. Things have started to escalate. Are you surprised? I'm not, but I am a little bit sad to see the location of it, because it is a bit difficult to get at, to be honest. Is this up there? It did look decent to begin with, but it really isn't. There's a hole there, of course, and this is very thin. I think I will have to remove the top bracket to really access it and see how bad it is. It's the strut mount, so it needs to be safe, of course. Also need to inspect lower down where the spring actually sits to make sure that it's decent in there. Yeah, there's more rust than I could see to begin with. This is definitely a point of concern. This reinforcement plate doesn't seem to really be welded onto anything. Not a lot, at least. I'm gonna try to undo the strut and lower that down so I can possibly remove this and see the scope of this repair that is needed. I'm not really sure how involved it's going to be just yet, but it's definitely going to need some welding. I'm just gonna put this under here to take the tension off the shock absorber. When I remove the shock absorber, the spring will probably come out also. That way I can inspect it in here a little bit better, so that's fine. But I wonder if that up there wants to come loose. It's a good thing I changed the brakes and calipers and all that, because this car is really close to getting on the road. I need to grab that up there or something. Yeah, it came undone. Or loose at least. I'm just going to create a heat shield like this. The rubber will be burned, but there's not much I can do about that. Maybe I can apply enough pressure through the rubber onto the shaft for it to just come loose now. Next attempt will be to cut the rubber away, because I could probably just find something that fits. All this work is just to be able to put it back together so that I can move the car. Because I don't want to buy struts right now. Feels a bit silly. I'm trying to stop being surprised when I find more rust than expected, but I still always get a little bit surprised. I think this area I could see some swelling in this area, so I did know there was something going on. But it looked a lot better than it was. And you know what? It's always like that. So why be surprised? Now I can go ahead and grab it in there. I'm going to grab it as low as possible to try to damage as little of the thread as possible. Again, only so that I can put it back together. There we go. Still just spinning. Come on. Cut me some slack. Yeah, I can get this one in. That is going to be a bit stronger. I'm just going to loosen it up a bit and then tighten. Just going to go a bit forward and backwards until I hopefully can get it all the way off. I think it's coming now. Oh, it started to spin right there. Let's go back again. Wow, it takes a long time. It's got to be almost off now. Yay! It's off. Wow, this has taken an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. Maybe even more. And also transformed the workspace quite a lot. Take a look at all the tools that I've picked up trying to take this off. But now I can undo this. Lower it down slowly. Great news. It turns out that the spring won't come out just by removing the shock absorber. I just read in the Haynes manual, and you need to undo the trailing arm also. That's great for two reasons. One thing, I don't have to strap it up or anything like that right now when I work on it. The other thing is that I don't really see any reason why I can't remove or move the car without the shock absorber. It will just be very bouncy on the rear. That doesn't really matter for moving it. The bad thing is I have used a lot of time not cutting that shock absorber. And I could probably just have done that. But anyway, I can put it back in now, and that's also nice. Now I want to undo the lower bolt on the shock absorber, which is stuck. It's very weird that everything is rusty and stuck on this one. There we go. It's coming. I think I'm gonna remove this axle at one point, clean it up and paint it. Also because there's probably some rust up there that would be easier to tackle without this on, but it won't be today because I don't want to get that involved in it right now. And then I just need to tap that out with something. There we go. I think it's actually in pretty good, decent condition because it's going back to position quite quickly. I might have to end up just reusing this shock because because I'm not going to buy a new one if this one is all right. But that'll do. It's out. So what do we have here? And more importantly, what do we not have in here? This one is definitely not attached to anything anymore. What I'm most worried about is getting to the places that I need to weld and cut without removing the outer wing, because that I don't want to do. So after a bit of tidy up, I already started to make a mess again, and this is where I'm at right now. So it's getting a little bit more easy to see the scope of it, but I'm struggling a little bit to find the correct way to, well, not the correct way, but my way to fix this. One thing is I could just cut the small areas out, weld in some pieces, but I could also cut the entire thing off like this, so I can fix that in there and do a better job in there. Solution number one, abandon this project, scrap the car. Not gonna happen. Solution number two is there is a repair panel that looks like kind of this area that is possible to buy. It's quite expensive and, well, it's not expensive, but it's not exactly the same shape. It doesn't have this reinforcement plate, but it's probably just made in a thicker grade, or maybe this is just integrated into the panel. But to be honest, I'm saying expensive, but it is around 500 Danish kroner, I think. And I have to do this on a budget. I have to save money wherever I can. The next thing is, I know a guy who got a Saab 900 standing that is going to be scrapped or used for parts, probably more correct to say. He told me that he thinks this area is all right, so it's possible to maybe cut it from that. But the last possibility, and the one that I'm going to start with, is I'm going to cut away the rusty area, remove it, and try to fix it off the car and then weld it back in. This is the area that I want to fix, this hole in particular, and this up here. I cannot get to the weld or cut or anything up here, so it's easier to take it out. So I'm thinking something like a line down here, and then across here, maybe even a bit lower. This rust here is surface rust. I don't think it will matter much, but over here I got this rusty area, and it would be a lot easier if this was removed to fix that. So I'm thinking something along the lines of here, and then down, and then let's go below that surface rust. And then I can sandblast it and treat it. There's still some there, but it's definitely not bad. So I think this is the plan of attack. If this fails, then I will have to probably go and cut out a piece of my mate's car, because this will be bigger than the repair panel. So this is the plan of attack. I don't know if it's the correct thing to do, but it's the thing that I'm going to try. Firstly, I'm going to cut down, and then I'm going to go into the trunk and try to drill out all the spot welds. Didn't cut it all the way through right there though. Very close, so maybe I can just make it snap off. Or is there a spot weld right here? Yeah, there probably is. But I think it's a pretty weak one. To imagine that only 2 spot welds were holding this in. 3 with this one, of course. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, this back here is All right, I ripped the spot welding out, so I need to fix that. This up here looks decent, but there is some rust right here. That will be a lot easier to address now with this one off. Then there's of course this piece that I can now work on off the car and see what's left off. Looks decent on the inside. And in the end, I'm just going to weld it back in, and everything will be dandy, fine and dandy. It's nice to see that it's not any worse than this back here. This is surface corrosion that needs to be treated. This area needs to be cut out and fixed. That's not too bad either. This in here looks very good, and the thickness of this is also very good still. Not a big deal. So here we have the piece off the car, and my plans are to just try to fix this and then weld it back in. But to be honest, now that it's off, I do see that it's not just the hole that is a problem. There is also a lot of corrosion that has removed a lot of material. And I also noticed that this stuff is very thick, like very, very thick. I was expecting 1.5. It's 2 millimeters thick material. And the problem is a place like there, you can see a lot of surface corrosion. I would guess that it's probably a lot less. Let's just try to see if we can check it right here. Yeah, that's 1.2, 1.3 millimeters right there. So it's lost 1.8 or 0.8 millimeters of thickness around here. So that means that I would have to cut this piece out also to weld that in, and I will have to remove this. And it looks pretty bad down there also. It's getting a little bit complicated, and the thing is, 2 millimeters thick metal, it's just not as pliable as the 1.1 and 0.9 that I normally work with. This is a lot thicker. I found a piece of metal that is the correct thickness. This is 2 millimeters as well. It's an old repair piece from a 2CV chassis. This I could cut some pieces out of and make it into this, but to be honest, it is getting slightly more complicated than I had hoped to fix this right, because yeah, I could just weld the holes up and that would probably last a long time even with this thickness, but now that it's off, it really needs, I really want to reconstruct the rigidity of this part. I could also try to just form this entire piece out myself, because with a lot of patience and this anvil, I could probably just go ahead and try to form that entire piece. Let's go ahead and try. Yeah. So with the power of editing, I just created this. Well, I had, as mentioned previously, I had 3 solutions. I had the solution to fix what I had, and to buy the repair panel. There is a repair panel for this area. I'm unsure how big it is, but the last solution that I had was to go to a friend of mine, has a crashed Saab 99, which is pretty decent in the metal work. It's unsavable, unfortunately, but he offered me to cut some pieces out of that car for very cheap. So I opted for that solution and picked this up. And I actually also picked this up because it's pretty bad on the other side as well. And this is way better. It's a lot better, but it's not perfect. There is still rust in those areas, so I need to blast it and paint it. But it's not nearly as bad as the other one. It's very decent. It's savable. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's not supposed to be. It's Seaside Garage. The other side is actually very decent. So what I want to do now is to blast this, and then in the next Saab video I will try to weld this in.
The paint on this panel is unbelievable. It's amazing. I think the paint on a Saab is stronger than the sheet metal on a 2CV, to be honest. I have a hard time even getting it off. But it looks a lot better now. I don't see any good reason to get the paint off when it is this strong. I just want to fix it where it's rusty. So these areas I have blasted down. I need to do a bit more. I'm just gonna take the angle grinder to the paint right here to remove it a little bit better and then clean up that area. I cleaned up the top also for surface corrosion. So now it's ready. I'm not gonna paint it before it's in the car because I'm gonna give it some epoxy paint, and it makes more sense to just mix a batch when I have a lot of stuff to paint. So I will wait until this is welded in together with all the other repairs. But this turned out nice. I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit more and then it should be good to go. And do the same on the other panel also. So there we go, it's ready for the next video where I will attempt to fix this. I need to cut out this piece. I actually cut a piece out of the donor car also in this area, so I don't have to form that too much. So I need to weld that in. Then I need to cut this into shape and weld that in, and then repair the rest of it in here. So that's gonna be interesting. I think it will turn out pretty decent. And then of course I need to fix all the other rust that I found in here. But that is the main concern right there. I have a feeling that it's going to be the same deal on the other side. It looked very fine until I just started to poke on it a little bit. Off camera of course, but now I'm just gonna poke a bit more together with you guys because that looks a bit gravy right there. And because of that I cut a repair piece out also while I was there for the other side. But I'm not going to use it if it's not necessary. There we go. There's a hole. So I'm going to fix that also and replace that. Yeah. But this will be all for this video. Next video on the Saab, I will start to fix that stuff. I'm not going to move the Saab before I'm finished with it. I don't think there is any rigidity problems, to be honest, but I don't want to put it on the ground with that big piece missing on the left side. So I'm going to fix that up ASAP, but there is some stuff that you have to do when you have a family and it's this time of year. So I'm going to take a break on all that and then continue on this next year. But thank you for watching. I've said this many times, but I'm really stoked to be back on the Saab. It needs to be done right, I think. It's not necessarily completely right, but I need to really think about this this restoration because I'm really trying to do a good job on this without breaking the bank, because I'm not going to go full restoration on it. I simply will not be able to afford that. But I want to do it as good as possible within a reasonable budget. So thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the entire year, if you did that. And see you in the next one. Remember, you can support me on Patreon. There is a link down below. It is quite important. If you like the amount of content that I'm producing at the moment, it's a pretty good idea to become a Patreon, because that will make it possible to continue that way. Either way, this is going to be all for the Saab, and probably also for Seaside Garage this year. See you next year.